Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais, and my co-host, Andrew Bobo, is on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. Yeah, welcome back to Matter of Facts podcast. We are once again joined by John and Duncan from US Nightvision to finish up where we left off last week. So if you're listening to this and you missed that, you should go back and listen to that, because that was the episode that leads up to this, where we started off talking about Nightvision, the history of it, how US Nightvision got started, and we led up to making your first purchase and committing financial suicide and possibly angering spouses, but I'm not responsible for any part of that. It's worth it for cool guy points. Back me up on this, everybody. Like, Nightvision is... It's an interesting world to get into, because like I feel like it's so talked about, yet it's still so niche, but it is like legitimately one of the few superpowers that average people can indulge in. But where we wanted to start this episode off with was, so you got your nod, now what? Like, walk people through this from the perspective of like they just loaded up the credit card. They just raided the kids' college fund. They bought themselves their very first PVS 14. It probably came with a plastic J-arm and a skull crusher, and they have the thing. But where do y'all think they go from here, other than like straight to Instagram to show off? Because that's going to happen.
Right. I guess I'll start, and John can bounce some ideas. Over the years, I think the important thing, so step one is like we talked about last episode, buy the night vision, right? Whatever you get, whatever you can afford, Gen 2, Gen 3, mono goggle, get that out of the way and get that locked down. I think from there, one or two things needs to immediately follow. Go out and start using your kit locally. But more importantly, I think it's paramount to get into a night vision training class, right? Because as the years go on, as your education in night vision goes on, train, exactly. Because you iterate after each training that you do. So, going in with this idea of what you need for a class is good, have a baseline, but go to more and more classes to tweak your kit, to tweak how you train, to tweak maybe you want to move your pressure pad back or forward, or maybe this mag pouch isn't working, or this holster's not working, this flashlight's not working, or I need more, or I need less. You're only going to be able to iterate your kit from these courses. So I think immediately after somebody gets their night vision, it's to go out there either locally or travel to a class, train, and from there you learn to iterate your kit based on what you're proficient with or what you're not proficient with, and you can kind of supplement that with additional tools. Maybe you're not great at shooting at night with EOTech. Maybe you just prefer a laser, or vice versa. So you're not going to find that out until you go and do these classes. And I think that's probably, in my opinion, next step is kind of what I stress.
Yeah, and I was just going to point out that, like, I'm pretty sure I talked about it on the last show, but, like, there's, I think people get really hyper fixated when we talk about night vision. They get really hyper fixated on like shooting with nods. And I always point out to people, I'm like, there's so much administrative stuff that happens with night vision, at least military operational use. Like, it's a totally different environment to just learn how to walk around in the dark in the woods with night vision. It's a very different set of skill sets to teach your brain. Because like Duncan, I think it was you. If not, it was you, John. But like you pointed out that most people, they're using a monocle, for example. There's almost always enough light. Like, we're never in pitch black, so there's always enough light that your non-aided eye can see something. But teaching your brain to put that picture and the aided picture together in a way that doesn't give you vertigo from hell, like that's something that takes practice. It takes training your brain and training your reflexes. There's just so much to be gained, even outside of a professional training class, by just putting the thing on your head and using it and retraining your brain how to do these kinds of things. Because, like, not many people in the civilian world have ever had to get their brain to merge two disparate images together from each eye. That's just not a common skill set.
Doesn't happen.
What was
You
that,
know,
John?
yeah, I was going to say, and to kind of expand on that, yeah, what I was mentioning, I think, in our last week's episode is that the brain is really an amazing thing in the sense that it fuses that image, that unaided eye image that adapts to the natural light around you. And wearing a 14 or a monocular of some model over one of your eyes, a lot of guys run a dominant eye. It fuses and it almost increases your depth perception. Not true depth perception as a dual tube goggle, but enough that it is why, like, we um, antiquated the PVS-7, because the PVS-7, although it had two eyepieces, it it narrowed down into one ocular or one tube, and then that was your limited depth perception. And they realized that over a period of time and years of training, that the monocular, because there was some special operations, I think Litton back in the day had like a, I think it was called like the M18 or something. It was almost like the predecessor to the PVS-14, and really only the guys working in like special operations, team guys in the Navy, they would run those, and they're like, "Well, this works way better than a PVS-7," and so for that reason, you can gain a lot of um, aptitude from that added depth perception of a monocular. And one last thing is that yes, if you just go out and use it, you'll become better at it. Like we said last week, it doesn't matter if you're, I don't play tennis very well, never have. But if I went out and played tennis 4 hours a day for a year, I'd be a better tennis player a year. I would still not be good, but I'd be a better player a year later than I was when I started. And so, yeah, getting out there and just using it is going to make you better with it.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing that just plain simple using it, because like, not gonna lie, I work from home remotely like 95% of the time, and when I got this whole setup, I spent a couple of days sitting here in the office with it sitting on my head for an 8 hour shift, purely because it did two things. It retrained all these neck muscles that haven't had to hang a weight off the front of them for a couple of years. But the other thing it did was it told me loud and clear where in that helmet I had a hot spot or where the pads need to be adjusted. Like there's something to be said, and it's something that Andrew and I have kind of preached about when it comes to like any aspect of training. But there's something to be said for the fact that if you don't run your gear, you never really know how it works. So you have two options here. You can either stick it on a shelf and log your cool guy points, or you can actually use it even for the most mundane and boring things humanly possible, because time is time. Time under nods is still time under nods.
Well, I mean, and we've talked about it in the past where just, I mean, like our gear in general, like camping, say, take for example. I mean, we talk about how we need to get out and we need to use our gear. We need to figure out and we need to know how to use that water filter. We need to know how to use that new stove, that fire starter, all that stuff. I mean, that's all tools in our toolbox. Night vision is just that. It's another tool in your toolbox. And yeah, if you just buy it and you're like, okay, cool, I got the object here, and you stick it on the shelf to collect dust and you never use it and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, if the day ever comes that you need to throw it on and use it, could you use it? I mean, you could fumble your way through it probably, but it's going to be very like you're just gonna not really know what to do, and it's gonna look just weird. It's gonna feel weird. But yeah,
Or
definitely.
or,
What's that?
or to build on what you're saying, Andrew, or you get it, like Phil said, you get it, you take your Instagram picture, you get your cool points, blah blah blah. And if you don't go out and use it, and become familiar with it, and it becomes second nature, that one time, should it be needed in a real world situation, you're SOL, right? You might, like you said, Andrew, be able to fumble through it, but you're not going to be able to fumble through it with any proficiency,
Right.
right? And I'm not talking about time trials or anything like that, but there's a difference between having it and being proficient and having it just to have it, right? So having it just to have it for your cool guy points, if that's you and you have a expendable income, sure, and you just if that's what you need to put on your shelf or put in your safe to feel cool and whatnot, okay. I mean, there is a crowd for that, but I think the important factor is you need to get it and train with it.
Exactly.
Become accustomed with it, and not just shooting. There's so much more to night vision than just running and gunning. There's astronomy. There's photography. There's going for a walk. There's camping. There's a prepper mindset to have it in your go bag and to have it in somewhere easily accessible or whatnot. And a lot of people, in my experience over the years, they'll get a goggle to start, or they get a binocular to start. And if they go the goggle, later down the road, they're going to get a mono PBS 14 to, throw in their go bag, throw in their range bag, something extra. If you get a 14 now and get a goggle down the road, a lot of people, instead of upgrading or selling off, they're keeping that primary unit that they got as a backup or for the friends or a loaner set or something. So, but those people, those individuals are training with it. They're iterating with their kit. Going back to what I said, getting a PBS 14 today, 6 or 12 months getting a goggle, you're iterating your kit, and you're generally doing that because you find a need to enhance your tool's capabilities. And so you're moving into that. You're moving into white lights. You're moving into lasers. You're going to more training. So I guess at the end, just use your stuff, right? The more you use it, the better it's going to be for you. And that's pretty much what I have to say on that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that goes to, using your night vision, whether it's a monocular or, single tube. Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, right there is a perfect example. I mean, looking at the stars. I mean, the astronomy part of it is huge. I mean, you look up at the stars, and it's crazy when you look up at the stars with your naked eye, and then if you just throw a PBS 14 or whatever you have, and you throw that, and you're like, oh hey, I can see a lot more cool stuff. Like, it's just crazy how much it amplifies the
It
stars.
is one of my favorite things to do in night vision is the stars. Like, I used to call it, I used to make fun of guys that would stargaze, especially early on in the war efforts. But you almost get lost in it. You don't realize how many stars are in our solar system. I mean, there are probably tens of thousands versus hundreds that you would see with your naked eye or your human eye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, but that goes into other gear. So you have your night vision. Now what? And so that goes into lasers. I mean, let's just hop into lasers and stuff like that, because it's lasers and optics. I mean, I'm a big fan of the high optics, like the high mount. I was a fan of the high mount. I think on my AR, I have the ScalarWorks 1.93 inch mount I just have a Holosun red dot on there. But I became a big fan of that based off of just ergonomics and just how you because I'm not a big fan of how you scrunch down into the gun and everything like that. So the higher mount, I've always liked it just because of how relaxed my neck feels and how much of a neutral position that your head gets. And that that transition to night vision, because as I trained and as I got used to this high mount, and then I got the PBS 14, just pulling it up and just looking actually passive through the optic at that mount, and then keeping both eyes open and actually seeing, my brain would sit there and say, okay, I got the PBS 14, the white phosphor, and then now I see this red circle, and my brain would merge them. So it was really interesting walking through the woods, and I see nothing on my right eye. My left eye is lit up with the night vision, but then I'm seeing a red dot over top of that. And so I got to, I got used to that. And then when I moved to duals, shooting passive shooting passive and looking through that red dot. And then of course with the laser and stuff, with an IR laser, shooting with a laser and stuff is just a whole fun game that it's a whole nother animal. It's pretty crazy, the difference in it, and just, I mean, how fun it is. And so,
right,
yeah.
and I think you had brought up lasers, so I'll dive into that. I think there's a ton of lasers on the market, right? You have visible, you have IR only, you have clones that you just have an enormous amount of options. Here at US Night Vision, we've really kind of streamlined those options. into the 3EIR designate family. So you have, some options that are under $1,000. You have two. You have the 1 series. I'll show it right here. So it comes in visible green or IR pointer only. You take a step up, still under $1,000. You kind of get into the dual beam category, right? Which is going to be your visible green pointer and your IR pointer. And then you go into the IRB, which is a dual beam with a V-cell illuminator. This one's at 2,000, but there are still 3 other models that compete in that sub-1,000 space that gets you immediately that next level, that next kit that you can start iterating on. And then you can dive into white lights or IR lights and stuff of that nature. And when you dive into that, we have US Nightvision branded Surefire M640Bs. So you have your white light head and IR head, and you twist and you can circle between those two. You can go very popular in the lighting community, Malkoff heads, either white light or IR. We have some IR ones which are hard to find. Or you can go, what I do personally, I do dedicated white light. So I did the Surefire before. I'm currently with the Cloud Defense Rain 3.0. These things are bright, brighter than you need in a good way. But there's a lot of options, whether you do lasers first or light first. It really is going to come down to, passive versus active. Which one are you more comfortable with to start? Which one do you want to iterate first? Because a lot of people are iterating small segments at a time rather than full kit iteration. So, what you saw years and years ago were a lot of people just getting a bunch of stuff and hodgepodging it together, going to a class, this works, this doesn't, okay, hodgepodge some more stuff, and so on and so forth. Now what you're seeing is a more tactile way, or more
almost a more strategic
way. Yeah, more strategic way that people are doing it. They're iterating, one piece of that arsenal at a time, whether that be the light, whether that be the laser, whether that be the optic, whether that be a sling, and there's so many options on the market that, at least for us here at US Nightvision in the laser category, we have an option for everybody, right? We have the 2,000 and below. We have 3 models under the $1,000 mark. So whether you want visible, whether you want the whole kit caboodle, we have it at a price point that's nice. Some other great options that I'm big fans of over the years. Probably one of the biggest fans of B.E. Myers. So I've been running the Mall C1. I have an ER as well. Fabulous product. They drive a pretty penny. Some other great laser options, some restricted ones that not everybody gets to use. The Engal's fabulous, full power PEX, and some of their higher tier iterations for some longer range stuff's great too. But that's not every day. And the Designate family of lasers is an everyday professional and civilian use product at a price point that the industry hasn't seen in a long time. And I think that's a great iteration category, is the Designate family, if you're looking for lamps, right?
Yeah. Now, before we get off the subject of lasers, there is one, I want to call it hotly contested, but I really feel like it's more of a user preference thing. But it bears pointing out that there's multiple ways to zero a laser, and everybody has an opinion on what the best one is. So, off the top of my head, I can think of a converging zero, a parallel zero, and what they call an infinity zero, which to me still sounds like converging zero, but with extra steps. But do you have a personal preference or guidance for the person who's just getting into this? Because this came about recently because when I put that laser aim module on my rifle, I immediately got crap from my dad. Because years and years and years ago, I had told him, and I stand by this, I don't see the point of lasers on firearms. All the way up to the moment you start talking about night vision. Now it kind of become, it goes from silly FUD stuff towards mandatory. But it still begs the question of do you have a personal idea of zeroing? I just did a parallel zero on this because I know that from every distance that I'm reasonably going to shoot with night vision, I'm an inch. My laser's an inch high and an inch right, and it makes the math really, really simple. And I'm not smart enough to do complex math
Right.
under fire.
No, I'm right there with it. I do the same thing, and it really is for that. Wherever I am, I know where I'm hitting. Right. So, I can't. Personal preferences are just that, personal preferences. Right. Had I said I not did the same thing, then I have my own reasons for that. But I happen to, right? Because it's like you said, it's just the easiest. So my advice is, you're not going to know your preference until you go and train. So, it expresses that need and requirement even further. And maybe you move your laser up, maybe you move it back, maybe you put it on the side rail or something. And then that changes zeroing what you do and how you do it as well. So there's a lot of trains of thought, but the best way, in my opinion, is going to be go out and figure it out. Right? Everybody's going to have their own preference, and I think the best advice is don't necessarily take other people's advice. Right? Their preference is their preference for a reason.
Good advice. Great advice.
Right. Well, that's the thing is I can tell you to do it X, Y, and Z way, but maybe your brain doesn't work like that. Maybe that's not what your preference is. Maybe that's not where your proficiency is either. So, just because I do it a way, or John does it a way, Andrew and you and Phil do it a different way, we're proficient in how we set our stuff up. The next guy may not be the same way, setup wise. So the best answer is go out and figure it out, right? Figure out what works for you, what you're the most proficient with, and then just take it from there.
I was going to say that, like, Andrew and I had this conversation when I first started playing with this PVS 14, and he had advised me the same thing he told y'all a second ago about how he was running his night vision on his non-dominant eye, and he was, like, co-locating in his brain the red dot that his right eye was seeing, his left eye was seeing. I can't make my brain do that, and I don't know why. Like, I can if I really, really, really focus on it, but it just doesn't come naturally to me. And it might purely be the fact that my brain is so hardwired to be right eye dominant that whatever my right eye sees is what overrides it, wants to override everything else. So that's just one of those things that, like, if you, like, somebody who had experience with it and tried it said, hey, try this, and I was like, yeah, my brain said no. And there's it gets to the point really quickly where I'm like, is it worth trying to rewire your brain to do something it obviously doesn't want to do, or do you just try method number 2 and see if that works better? But I feel like that applies to almost all this stuff. It's like, make the gear work with you.
Right, and I think you said it best. It's, what point do you stop, drop, and move on, right, to option number 2? Because you can't beat a dead horse. If option 1 doesn't work, it's okay. Sometimes option 1's not meant to work, right? That's why we train. That's why we iterate. That's why we learn. So going to option 2, hell, going to option 10 if need be, right? Whatever it lands you at a safe, proficient level to execute whatever you need to do, whether that be shooting, whether that be land nav, whether that be, admin task, whatever your journey to get there, however many times you had to relearn something or change something, it's irrelevant. The end goal is, the important fact is getting there. The journey is irrelevant.
Well said.
Yeah, and I mean, it really sounds like, it really sounds like it just comes down to getting out and using it. And that goes with any gear you have. If you buy a new firearm, a new pistol, get out and put a few hundred rounds down range. I mean, I would say put a few thousand rounds down range, but we all know how expensive ammo is right now. Get out and dry fire. Look at Mantis and dry fire with that. The biggest thing is getting some trigger time, and the same thing with night vision is getting time behind the tube and getting used to that 40-degree field of vision, getting used to that if you're running just a single tube, getting used to that one eye being covered and the other eye's not, because that does screw up your brain at first. If you're running two, like, again, just that depth perception, getting used to it. I mean, I walk around my house still to this day. I'll walk around my house at night sometimes, and it's more of I'll navigate the stairs. Like I'm purposely walking up and down the stairs, and I'm looking down, and I'm when I'm stepping, I try to look down so I can try to get that feel for, okay, this is where the step is. I mean, I made coffee the one night under nods because I was like, okay, I'm reaching for the cup. Okay, I'm reaching for this. Okay, I'm putting water. I got to put water in the in the pot and all this stuff. Like I'm trying to do this stuff under night vision because it's like, especially when you're working like the focus. That's the one big thing. When you have you have with duels and even with a PBS 14, but you have your focus. So you have infinity focus to where like when you focus at something like on the other side of the room and you focus your night vision in versus when then we were sitting there and you're trying to like look down and you're trying to do something that's close up. Okay, I got to take the time and I got to adjust my focus and so I can actually see what's going on, and everything, and getting used to doing that on the fly. And then on top of that, like the night vision class I took, yeah, I mean the first night it was a 3-day night vision class, and the first night it was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Like I'm used to kind of walking around, I'm used to doing this, but now okay, this is only like my second time shooting under nods. So okay, like what do I got to do? And it took a little bit to get used to. And then on top of that, by the third night, we went from shooting pistols. We started shooting pistols, then we went to rifles, and the third night we combined the two, and they turned it. And the final kind of obstacles were, you were running, Like there was times where you were running forward and you're stopping, and then you were running backwards and you're stopping, and you're running forward and you're stopping, or you're running left and right. And you had to, not only did you have to keep your firearm in a safe direction at all times because you had people all around you, and so you had to be cognizant where other people were. So it was a really good class, and I suggest doing this is get used to looking left and right, especially if you under duels, when you lose that, you kind of lose that peripheral a little bit, um, especially when it's dark out. You don't have that peripheral vision, and so get used to turning left, right, up, down, look around, and understand, get your situational awareness under you. And then we go to lasers and getting used to shooting under night vision with the laser. Um, and then just shooting passive and all that stuff. All it comes down to is using your gear. Like that's exactly that. That's all this comes down to is you can sit there and you can have all the Gucci gear you want. You can have the panel night vision with the 4 tubes and all this stuff. But if you don't get behind it, you're not doing crap. You're not gonna be proficient in it at all.
So
But
what I just, oh, excuse me, sorry.
no,
What I
go
was
ahead.
just going to interrupt, Andrew, is that what I just heard all three of you guys describe for the last 10 minutes is training.
Yeah.
And that's what we talked about just prior to this online or going live, was that without training on anything, it doesn't matter what you do in life, if you don't practice at it, you'll never become proficient. And that's exactly what you, all three of you said. You know, when I was transitioning from pistol to rifle, and then on the third day you were doing transitions on both. And that's how you're going to get good at it, is literally just putting it on and using it. And the more you do it, whether it's sitting at your desk for 8 hours, whether it's walking up and down the stairs holding a cup of water or a cup of coffee, that's how you're going to become better at it. So it's just putting the time in. That's what it is.
110%. And I just typed it into the chat to everybody. I don't have it handy, but if you check our Instagram, you could see a picture of Andrew making coffee.
Oh yeah, I forgot that I forgot that you and I made coffee at camp the one day.
Yeah, that was. So the long and the short of that is, it was prepper camp this past year, and it was like the butt crack of dawn. Nobody else was awake yet, and we were trying to make breakfast and coffee off the tailgate of my truck before we had to drive down the hill to the vendors area. And Andrew extinguishes all the lights, puts dual tubes on, and starts making coffee under night vision, and I just couldn't help myself. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was
But I mean,
fun.
if you got it,
You're
use
learning.
it. Why not? Almost as much fun as when the two of us decided to go walk around under night vision that last night we were there, thinking that, oh, it's Sunday night, everybody will be gone, and we like rolled right up in the middle of like two of the organizers from prepper camp, who were very shocked at these two knuckleheads running around with night vision and helmets on. But you know, they were cool.
Yeah.
But
So I want
scared
to
some poor old lady to death.
I want to touch on really quick. I want to touch on Raggles. His
Yeah, I was just
comment.
reading that too.
Yeah. yeah. So basically, oops, that's
You tried to pull it up same
yep.
time I did.
Okay.
So I know Holliston is making waves again. They're pretty good at doing this in the industry lately. Their new the red dot that they're coming out with, like it's a thermal night vision. I mean, they have it's pretty nuts. I don't know if I'm sure you guys have seen it.
Yeah, that in both of those models that Raggle is referencing were announced at SHOT Show 23 or 2023, so last year's SHOT Show. They were always, from my understanding, I don't have any range time with either of them. I have floor time and some, demo time, but no, I'm not shot any rounds through any of them. So my opinion is strictly based on the technology that they present, the price points that they present, and kind of comparing and contrasting those features to predecessors within the industry. There's always going to be a place for products, right? Regardless of how good or how poor they are, there's always going to be a place for something and everything. I think both of those will never accomplish what you may think they want to accomplish. Right, they're always going to be both of those models are very limited because essentially they're trying to shrink the form factor and the tech down so much. It kind of goes back to that kitchen sink mentality. You're throwing everything at the kitchen sink, and what's Realtor.com going to value your kitchen sink at? Is it going to be in the $100,000 category, or is it going to be in the $2 million category? And when you shove so much tech, and I'm not saying they're bad products because they're not, and they fill a niche void, I think, but it shouldn't be, in my opinion, your primary. You shouldn't look to those to replace PBS 14. You shouldn't look to those to replace RH25 from IRA. They just don't fill those gaps, and they're probably not designed to. I don't know. Is it worth the money? The person's going to make that for themselves. Like, look at the T-Rex arms with just testing. I forget the model, but it's like a $4,000. Was it SIG 9T or something? I'm probably butchering what it is, but it's like a $4,000 holographic on Optics Planet right now, and I don't know. There's a price point product for everybody, and this is probably on the low end comparable. Versus that in cost, at least. To answer your question, to this guy's question, it's probably one off. Like I don't think you need to replace your kit with that. Probably cool as extra stuff, but I wouldn't change everything that you have. If you already got a good thing going, I wouldn't go out and spend $1,000 or $1,500 to completely change how you shoot, because both of those are going to completely change how you shoot.
I guess the way, kind of going off of what you said, the more I think about it, I would almost I guess I would have a gun dedicated to my night vision, such as the rifle I have now. And once you get like a setup, like you get your PBS 14 or whatever you want to get, once you get certain things, if you have another firearm, then I would say, yeah, go for maybe setting another one up, a different one. And then honestly, and comparing the two, because you could sit there and be like, okay, well, I like this one better or whatever. If it meets your needs, then yeah, okay, sell all your night vision, do whatever you need to do. But if you're wanting to get night vision, I would actually say my suggestion would be get into nods, get into the package. Like, yeah, it's a pretty expensive road, but get into it now. Go down that road and fall down that rabbit hole, because that's what I did, and I've been pretty happy with it. And then, like I said, if you can sit there and be like, okay, well, I'm pretty content with my setup and all this stuff. All right, I'm going to give this one a shot. I'm going to try this and see what happens. And if I like it, I like it. If I don't, then okay, whatever. But I mean, it's an optic. They developed it for a reason. I'm sure it fills a niche, or I'm sure it fills a void somewhere. Especially with the size of it and the weight and how what it looks like and how it operates.
Price.
And the price, yeah, the price is huge for it. And again, Holliston is making waves. Like, they are constantly making waves, and that's what I like about the company. I hate that they're China, but I like that they're making waves, and their stuff is good. Like when I first saw reviews on when they first came out, and their stuff was like being drop tested, and it was surviving these drop tests, and it was surviving like the thousands upon thousands of rounds that Leopold, who's been around for way longer, their stuff is failing after a couple thousand rounds and certain things. And I mean, look at Sig. I mean, yeah, Sig's China crap too, but they're even more China crap. I'm not really happy with the Romeos and stuff, but Holosun, for some reason, whatever they're doing it right.
I think
And
maybe
I
in,
mean, I have a handful. I mean, not a handful, but I have a few Holosun optics, and the red dot on my rifle. I keep thinking about going to like not necessarily an aim point or T2, but I've been thinking about going to the Trigicon, like the MRO, and but as much as I've been wanting to look, I've been looking at MROs and I've been researching the crap out of them and thinking about picking one up. The Holosun red dot that I have on my rifle, I think I've had it on there for 5 years or so, give or take. And
Not failed,
I
so
have
why
beat the
change?
crap. Exactly. I have beat the crap out of it, dropped it, all kinds of stuff, and has not failed on me.
I think an important fact to mention is, not Holosun is at a cheaper price point, but if something works, it doesn't necessarily have to be the highest price item either. Right? Holosun is not the highest price item in the optics or laser game, right? Sometimes they're not even the cheapest either. Sometimes they truly are a middle ground. But Andrew, like you said, you've had yours for 5 years. I've had mine for probably over 3. Beat the crap out of it. Still goes, still works. There's nothing wrong with it. So why change it? Right? Yeah, there's for sure better stuff out there. There's never not going to be better stuff, whether that be higher price, same price, or more, or less. Excuse me. There's going to be something else. Once you find something that works, stick with it. Right? There's not necessarily a need to iterate past or further than what you got if it works. That's why my 503 Holosun, I don't, my next gun will be, I'll do the holographic, the EOTech, but nothing wrong with it. It's not high speed. It doesn't look great, but it works, and it works every time. So
I did want to circle back around to something that we didn't talk about last time, and I wasn't going to until we started talking about the Holosun, and it got me thinking about it. What's y'all's opinion of digital night vision? Because I have my own. Speaking about digital night vision specifically, separate from thermal.
Well,
like Aurora.
Yeah,
digital night vision is dependent on typically like infrared illumination. So, not tooting our own horn, but Chris and I back in early 2000 had a business partner who's been a longtime friend, actually got me started in the night vision industry. His name's Scott Henry. He's the former owner of IR Defense, or IRD, which is the thermal company that Trigicon purchased a few years ago. And back in like 2000, probably 2001, 2002, Scott wanted out of the night vision industry because he thought image intensified wasn't going to last much longer, which that wasn't the best call. But nonetheless, he invented, I'm pretty sure I can say this with confidence, that we were the first company to introduce digital night vision. And we ended up selling it to Bushnell. Oh, actually, Night Owl, I think, came in and offered Bushnell. But Bushnell came out with a line of products soon afterwards. And what I learned, or what I figured out very quickly, was that digital night vision was never going to replace image intensified because of the dependency on infrared. Now, today's infrared illumination and diodes are definitely 10,000 times better than they were in the year 2000. But even then, it is dependent on that infrared illumination. And so where image intensified sees, stars 4 trillion light years away, it shows you the advancement in that technology. So I don't think that digital night vision will ever play a big part. I know that I think the company Psionics Am I right,
Mm-hmm.
Duncan?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, they've done some pretty cool stuff, but there was a time where CMOS technology, which was, I believe, somewhat directly related to digital night vision, was going to change the game, and it still hasn't. So, unless some company, and don't discount China, because I was staying quiet while you guys were talking. I, China's kicking everybody's butt in just about all technologies these days, even thermal technology. When you think the companies like iRay, for especially the money, they are producing some very, very capable and high definition thermal imaging, on par really with Trigicon or BAE system cores. Is pretty impressive, and they continue to make these huge leaps and huge gains in all technology across the board. So I would say as of now, I don't see digital being much of a useful piece of night vision from what I used. I own a Psionics. I haven't taken it out of my safe in probably 2 years. And I don't know if they've come advanced that in the last 2 years, but not that impressed when compared to image intensified.
Yeah.
So to grow or to add on to what John was saying, so digital, John, I don't know if you have the Aurora Black Pro or whatever model you have, but that's probably what you're talking about from Psionics. Yeah. So since then, they've iterated into a monocular style with the Osman. That looks like a PVS 14 with some other stuff going on. But digital, I think, so there's two things that come to mind when we're talking digital in the night vision space. We're talking DoD military side, and we're talking commercial side. I think in a lot of aspects, Psionics is spearheading, and probably the only company that is spearheading digital on the commercial front. Whether that be in the tactical sense, whether that be in the maritime sense, they do very well, or the ground-based sense that the Auroras and the Osprins are targeted and geared towards. Then you have the DoD side with the IVAS program that Psionics and Microsoft were working on, and it's still being tested. You have what's called NVD Next, which is the idea of fusing analog and those digital components together, taking it in kind of CMOS perhaps. I know some companies are moving into that too, but essentially there's two trains of progress being made on the front through what Psionics and Microsoft through the IVAS program started, the NVD Next program, which is being iterated and talked about, and then you have the commercial side with Psionics with the Osprey and stuff. So digital is making strides. I don't think it's going to surpass I squared or night vision analog technology anytime soon. I think it's 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years out. A lot of my personal experience with the digital spectrum has been latency issues. There's not enough hertz refreshing to walk or run, let alone start shooting. But where this digital stuff really shines thus far is in your stationary, in your maritime, your videography and stuff like that. It's doing phenomenal in those segments, but it can't yet replace analog technology, and strictly for that latency issue. There's no other. The only thing, in my opinion, in my experience, stopping digital from surpassing what analog can do is truly that refresh rate. If they can get that way up and it becomes true optically in terms of there's no latency, there's no lag or anything when you're looking around, when that becomes a thing, I think digital has a place at the table. Before that, I don't think it does. And that's probably my 2 cents on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting because it's you definitely digital. You see a lot of it. You've been seeing it more up and coming. I've been seeing more companies like the Psionics and stuff. I've been seeing them pushing the ability for it to mount to a helmet and everything, and they're marketing towards that. And I guess I keep trying to steer people away just because the digital and the latency issues and stuff like that. It's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, like that is cool. Like I would love to get a Psionics just because of the fact that to record and to be able to go out and shoot and then set up a tripod and record yourself doing it, and then having that the ability to do that. And so yeah, that's what I would do it for. But you would never catch it on a helmet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
Right.
not yet. It's not there yet. Like, but with all technology, like it's coming down the pipe. It's just a matter of getting that the speed up and all that stuff on it. So
well, and what's it going to cost, right?
Mhm.
So a PBS 14 is going to set you back. Let's just ballpark everything, $3,000. The Ospen is already from what I recall, 2,600 ish. So to make it better, it's probably going to cost more money. So, I think perhaps down the line we're going to come to a crossroads where digital and analog are the same. What are you going to choose?
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's going to be no latency issues with the digital. So what are you going to choose? And that's I guess in my eyes, that's $1 million question, because I couldn't answer that today, right? Because we haven't the industry hasn't iterated to a product or a technology that affords us that question yet, right? But it's going to come. There's in years time, there's going to be a product where you have a PBS 14 and a whatever gadget or widget you have, and they perform the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the choice? I don't know.
mean, the analogy I make is it's like comparing carburetors to fuel injection. And that sounds like a really dumb comparison to make in 2024 when everything runs on fuel injection. But 50 years ago, there was a debate about down to like what manufacturer, what model of vehicle, what usage. Do you go with fuel injection or do you go with carburation? Because at that point, carburation was the old hand that was well known and well understood. Mechanics knew how to modify it and fix it. And fuel injection was witchcraft. And we went through a lot of the same thing. Like when I was younger in the late 90s and or early 2000s, I was working at mechanic shops. I grew up in the land of electronic fuel injection and OBD1 and 2 computers, and I just had a natural understanding of this information's coming in the computer. You can plug a code reader into it. You can read the data out of it and figure out what the problem is. But the mechanics that came along before me thought that was witchcraft. Like, they didn't like the fact that this wasn't all analog and mechanical. So I look at it as there's a point where, like you said, it's almost like two bell curves that intersect. There's this bell curve that says this works better than this does. And sooner or later, this one's going to go up and this one's going to come, or this one's going to flatline, and eventually they're going to crisscross. And when they do, that's when we're talking about the decision making coming in that you just described. Like, I can see digital eventually eclipsing analog, but I don't see that anytime soon. And I certainly don't see, like, for the person that says, do we buy night vision because one day it's going to be obsolete? I don't think Gen 3 night vision is going to be obsolete. I think there might be a day when people prefer digital to analog, but I don't think that's going to automatically make analog something you pitch in the trash or put on the shelf, if that makes sense.
So I guess talking going off of night vision, we've talked about lasers, we've talked about some lights. Let's talk about like helmet gear. You get a helmet. What are some good? We talked about. I think the last episode we talked about Team Windy. Then we talked about the bump helmet versus ballistic, the G24 mounts, the J arms, the stuff that you guys sell. You guys sell an adapter for that goes from a dovetail to for the J arm for a bayonet style, stuff like that. So, what are some decent what's something we all like the look of the helmets, like with the operators in the movies and if you look them up online and what they're running and all that stuff. But what are some key things to throw on a helmet?
I've got something that I bet none of y'all are going to say, but it's super important, and I'll go last. Although Duncan and John might beat me to it, for all I know.
Okay, so I'll just go over. I guess maybe the best way to answer this for me is just go over what I use, right? Mm-hmm. So got a bump helmet. My helmet setup is, over the years I've iterated it many a times. Mm-hmm. Right now, a lot of people don't realize this, but you can upgrade your helmet pads, right? A lot of people just leave what they get and that's it. No. I have for many years used 4D Tactical. It's like memory foam. For the last 2 years, or ever since Hard-Headed Veterans came out with their micro lattice, I've been using that. The airflow is phenomenal. The weight is phenomenal. if you don't, the only drawback to that micro lattice is if you don't run a headband, you have a big forehead like I do, you may end up with leprosy on your face for half an hour afterwards. So they include a headband for a reason. I've lost it too many times, and I have a quick order button on Amazon for a new one. That I have an SNS Mantis robe on it, Comtac 3s to date myself. They've been working for a decade, no sense in replacing. On what else is on there? Wilcox G24, counterweight, and that's kind of it. I'll plug in my Princeton Tech admin light from here or there. That's my setup.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, mine. It sounds like it's pretty similar. I mean, I have the Swordens.
Yep.
I believe there's the Swordens. Ear Pro. I'm kind of testing out. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but like I bought the Unity tactical, the Unity tactical attachments that go from basically from mounted on the helmet down to the Ear Pro, and versus the ones that like the Peltor ones that just pop out. So I'm kind of testing these ones. I like them. I need to do a little bit of mine. I need to do a couple little tweaks to them. But other than that, they're not doing too bad. I have the Tomahawk from TNVC, and that has the counterweight that goes in the back. That's basically, I have a couple lead.
You mean the Mohawk?
Mohawk, sorry, not Tomahawk. I'm thinking about steak.
So was I now.
But yeah.
My dinner plans.
Right, I bought 3 of them tonight. So, but yeah, so yeah, I have that with the counterweight, which I have mostly batteries back there, a couple lead weights, but mostly batteries. And then I have a Enforce, actually the Enforce weapon mounted light that for the rifles. It's the IR white. I have that, and
it's honestly the best helmet light.
They are, and like that's the thing is like I bought it years ago. I bought it for my rifle because it just came out. I was like, this thing is actually kind of cool. I like it. I bought it, and I was like, this thing sucks. Like I completely I took it right off my rifle. Decided I ended up buying a Streamlight Pro Tac and everything. But that when I got my helmet, I put that on there. I'm gonna buy a Theorem. So the one thing I need to add to it is it's a Theorem Picatinny mount that kind of it rotates up. It kind of rotates around. I've been doing a lot of research. What's that?
Spend the $30 on it and you won't regret it.
Oh yeah. So that's going to be my next purchase for my helmet. But just basically because I see a lot of use with the one night vision class I was in. A couple of the guys had it, and it was really nice. They could just shine their light straight up, and it would basically umbrella, and I loved it. So yeah, that's gonna be one of my next purchases. But I'm running the Rhino mount. What's that?
And it's so cheap to
oh yeah,
really. I mean, to think about it, because most people without that, right? You just mount it and it's forward facing. So a $30 piece of kit that you over time going to classes and training, $30. Now you instantly amplify your capabilities. You have an umbrella light, an admin light, you have everything that you need for $30 attachment, which is a swivel. I mean, stuff as simple as that really can take you or anybody to the next level of what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm running the Rhino mount on my helmet. I do want to upgrade to the G24 eventually, but the Rhino mount's been just working great. I thought about upgrading to the G24 and then kind of either A, sell the Rhino, or B, tuck it away and use it as a backup, possible, something like that. But it's running great for me. And then,
hey Andrew, are you running your 1431 with so you have the adapter for the dovetail, I'm guessing, because the 1431 runs a dovetail.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you have the adapter for the Rhino arm.
Well, no, the Rhino mount that came with the dovetail.
It came with the dovetail adapter, then probably. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Yeah.
just so that your audience isn't confused, a Rhino arm by default is a bayonet interface,
Mm.
and then most goggles, dual tube goggles, including even dual bridges for 14s, they run off of a dovetail adapter interface. So if you decided to upgrade, you could easily do that because your 1431 is already a dovetail. But
Mm-hmm.
your particular so a Rhino arm is going to be very compatible with like a PVS 14, but would not be compatible necessarily with a dovetail interface on a goggle.
I see. Okay.
one
Yeah.
thing.
I honestly like. I guess. When I got that Rhino mount and everything from you guys, I clicked it in, clicked the 1431 in, and was like, cool, it works right away. I guess I didn't even pay attention to the how.
Well, that's the thing, Andrew. Like from us, we already do that for you in our facility,
Yeah,
right?
I'm pulling up
if
Andrew's order.
if you're getting a goggle, we're going to already put the adapter, or else what's the point? You're not going to use a bayonet, so why even include it? So we'll go ahead and upgrade it before you even get it out of the box. It's just plug and play.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, he has that. I call it a pyramid, which is a dovetail conversion. But let me come back to you guys. I can't see. Okay, there you are. Yeah, that's exactly what you have, and very likely there was a period of time that Wilcox had some machining issues with one of their subs, and they weren't pushing any G24s out the door. And then we're selling, 100 goggles a month, and there was no way for guys to attach it to. So we started using this. I don't like it. I call it a pyramid, but it's actually PYRM, and it's literally the most lame thing I've ever. I'm embarrassed to say it, but it's Pimp Your Rhino mount. So, oh God, I want to crawl into a rock right now.
Points for creative marketing, though.
The PYRM was an adapter that is inserted into your Rhino arm to accept the dovetail interface. And that's why you have it. And it does work great. And it's a less expensive option because your Rhino arm is about $300, and then you have about $100 for the adapter versus $550 for a G24.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, it's gonna be like I said, it's working great right now, so it's one of those things where I might just upgrade down the road or something. But yeah, no, and then I have just a knockoff. Oh, Unity Tactical. I'm running one of the Unity Tactical green lights on the back of the helmet, just like the little button that you hit and
the sparks.
Yeah, the sparks and stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm running, and I have not invested in the better the pads inside the helmet. Talking to you, Duncan, I might have to research those, and I might have to grab.
Yeah, Andrew. To be honest with you, so if nothing else, do the 40 Tactical. I ran those 5+ years. The thing about that for your audiences, because they're basically memory foam. If you're a heavy sweater, defunk after every use, or else it's just going to be god awful smelly. When it's cold, they do become rock hard bricks, and that was the only downfall. When I was living in Florida, that wasn't an issue. It's never cold, so that's great. But living in North Carolina now in California, I have to be mindful of my environment. So I switched to the micro lattice. You physically feel the airflow when you walk. I've never had that before. Super comfy. They are rather expensive. It's 40 Tactical pads. They have the new Hive. I forget what they call it. I was an early adopter of that when it came out, but now they have some other designs. Those are great, super comfortable. 10 out of 10 would buy again. But the micro lattice is a game changer. It just happens to be rather pricey. I think it's over $200. But
that sounds about right.
Don't regret it, and I'd buy 10 more of them.
If you don't want to, you can't regret when you're talking about comfort and wearing night vision, especially when you're talking about some type of an all-night use or all-night mission. Like, comfort is going to be worth it when you're paying for it, because to use it when it's uncomfortable, getting back to that skull crusher, which is why we call it the skull crusher. Not too many guys want to use that on an overnight mission. It's a rough one. It starts to really give you a headache. And then it's worthless if you can't operate on it because your head's thumping, then your night vision is not really aiding you in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have anything as far as like helmet accessories to add that y'all haven't already covered. Except for the one thing that nobody talked about, which is the simplest, stupidest thing on earth that everybody forgets about until something bad happens, a lanyard. Which sounds like a really dumb thing to point out, but
Okay.
yeah,
I
I
mean-
just got a perfect eye roll out of Duncan. But
Okay,
look,
okay, and here's why. Okay, I don't not consider retention to be important, but so many helmets natively come with retention already, right? So like, I mean, Team Wendy's, they come with retention. I mean, everything comes with retention.
Our recon helmet comes with retention. They all
Right.
do,
Yeah. So I mean, are there better options than the onboard stuff? Yeah, because on my airframe, the stock bungees are not long enough. So I went out Amazon and got longer bungees, made that, and now my night vision doesn't smack me in the face or smack my helmet when it comes up. So some small changes, but it's still in the same segment of retention. Are you using a nerd, or are you using what are you using? Kinetic Consulting? Are you using just
totally homemade, stitched it myself? I have a piece of gutted 550 cord, and it is tied to a piece of extra nylon webbing I had lying around in my junk drawer with some Velcro double stitched to it. And you just whack it on the top of your melon, and it's just there to make sure that your PVS 14 doesn't take a swan dive into the ground. But
yeah, I mean, I think Phil, that's probably the least talked about, most important thing though.
Yeah,
is retention.
Yeah, I mean, and see, it's one of those weird situations because like it's something we never talked about. Of course, when I was using it operationally, it was always with a skull crusher, so I guess there really wasn't much tied onto except for maybe your ears, which would have been interesting. But like, I don't know. It's one of those things where like I either see people talk about it incessantly and they have some really cool $60, $70 retention system that they want to sell you on, or it's something that we totally overlook because it's of course you're going to do it. But again, I just want to loop it into the conversation for the new guys that are just coming into this, like especially if you're using like the plastic J-arm that comes with a PVS 14, especially if you're still in the bayonet ecotexture or ecosystem, like just understand that there's plastic involved for a reason, so you don't snap your neck if you hang your head up on something. But I don't work for the DoD anymore where I get to tell my supply sergeant I need another one. I get to tell my wife I smashed a $4,000 PVS 14 and then get beat with a wooden spoon. So like plan for things to fail.
And a retention system is twofold, because one part of it is the safety aspect, so that if your goggle becomes, knocked off of the carrier, it doesn't fall to the ground and smash and you get the wooden spoon treatment. But also the other side of it is a lot of guys were running, like when they were running duels, retention systems prevented any, that wobble that you would get when you're exfilling out of an aircraft, for example. You're going boots on the ground and guys were, going 100 miles an hour, that they wouldn't lose their line of sight with their night vision capabilities. So the retention system really is designed to do two things: stabilize the device so that it doesn't move around so much, and then of course it doesn't fall to the ground and break, become damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess kind of wrapping this up a little bit, what out of everything we've talked about, I mean, is there anything else that you guys would add? Like, can you think about anything off the top of your head that we might have skipped over, that someone trying to get into the game, that you would think is probably like a key component that they should look into getting?
Key component.
Or do you think that we basically covered everything?
Buy batteries, lots and lots of extras.
I will tell you that some of the add-ons I see, and I'm not discouraging it because it's a big investment, I do notice that there are guys or buyers that want to invest into a hard case to protect their device if they're driving it around in their vehicle. In the 24 years I've owned the company, I think I used a hard case maybe 3 times, and that was in the first year. And a couple of reasons why is it's big and heavy and bulky, and you're not carrying it around anywhere because it's too big and bulky. And then secondly, storing it, you're typically going to store it in a gun safe, or I do anyways, but you're not storing it in an environment where it's going to likely become damaged. And even when you're driving around in a vehicle off-road because you're going to a tree stand to go hunt your animals, your deer or whatever in the morning, you will get a little bit of movement around, but it's typically secured with your weapon. So I would just say that, again, it's not a bad investment, but at the practicality of it, to spend maybe $150 on a good hard case, and we have custom-made beautiful hard cases, waterproof and everything else, that would play a part where you don't have a gun safe. So like my gun safe houses all of my expensive everything, and it's temperature controlled. If you're going to put your night vision out in a garage where there might be moisture or humidity, then put it in one of those hard cases to store it in is it's an inexpensive insurance investment because it's preventing it from the environmental side of that damage. But other than that, I think we've covered just about everything with regards to kitting out your system or kitting out your device. An infrared aiming laser is key if you ever anticipate or plan on engaging targets, whether those be steel targets, yes.
I love
steel
the purple.
targets, animals, or people in a self-defense situation. A helmet is it's pretty standard in my eyes, but you can get away without having one. The IR indicators, the flashlights, I'm a huge fan of the Surefire, which is why we OEM it. I love that Vampire because it does provide you both the white light when you might need it because you won't have the luxury of night vision or your night vision fails you, as well as the infrared illumination to add to like a DIR1. So I do think we've covered, there's the DIR1. And man, that thing, it's not doing it much justice. That thing can literally fit in the palm of Duncan's hand. That's how small it is. I mean, look at the size of that thing. That form factor is incredible. It disappears on your rifle. You don't see it looking through your day optic during the day. It all but disappears. So, and a battery pack when you're running goggles like a 1431, that 1431 battery pack already has an IR infrared illumination and IR flashers. That's a great investment or an addition. And if you're running a 14, you guys are already kind of directed towards any type of a IR flashing device. Like we sell the Hellstar, I think is what I run on my helmets. So there's a tremendous amount of options out there.
Yeah, and the one thing that I noticed just by doing when you guys first dropped the your guys' IR devices and stuff, the lasers, is just how low profile they are. That's the one thing that really drew me to them because, like I said, I got a D-ball and I have it the way I have it mounted, and it's on a 16-inch rifle and stuff. But I do kind of see it, like if I put my hand on top to try to activate it, if I'm not using the switch or whatever like that. But I mean, I can see the top of it, even with a taller mount and stuff. It's just the way, just with basically just with that angle and everything coming out. I see the top of it. So having that low profile laser, that definitely, I do like that. That's awesome.
One of the biggest complaints over the last 2 years with guys in theater that were running PEC 15s and looking through there, especially like an EOTech hollow sight. I mean, that thing's already laying so flat on your rifle. I mean, that takes up 50% of your sight picture. So when you're trying to identify something in your sight picture, is somebody wearing something on their lower extremities? Trying to identify whether there might be explosives or something. It's very hard to see it when that top of that laser is covering 50% of your sight picture through your day optic. Most of the time, it didn't interfere with your point of aim, but it did interfere with your target. So, yeah, we're very proud and humbly proud of that DIR line because the form factor is incredible. If you're looking for illumination, I mean, there's only one other, laser illuminator on the market that even gets close to it performance-wise, which is the Maul from B.E. Myers. But, it's almost twice as expensive and hard to get. And it's just the form factor is pretty tough. If you enjoy a second flashlight on your rifle that will get you hung up on something, it's the laser for you. But otherwise, yeah, the DIR line is pretty incredible.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, good. Yeah. No. I got nothing else. I mean, yeah. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the company and stuff like that. As a recap to the listeners and everything, where can everybody find you guys?
Yeah, so they can find us at www.usnightvision.com. Google us. You'll find our phone number. Hop on the website. Our Facebook, Instagram are there. Or you can hop on our live chat, and I'll see if I can't beat my 4-second response time.
I got
start testing that.
I got two more positive feedbacks today for Duncan. And when he first started that thing, I was like, oh, please don't do that. I received so many compliments for this guy on something that I was very discouraging in the beginning. And I got vetoed between my business partner and Duncan. Like, just give it some time. And guys love it. Guys are buying on the spot because Duncan's right there to kind of walk you through the process and hold your hand along the way. And it's been very, very valuable.
Yeah, no, it says a lot too. I mean, it says a lot when you are thinking about a company like this. It's like, okay, well, of course, because you go on these other websites and a lot of them, they'll pop up and it's a generic bot and like a question.
It's a bot.
It's chat bot.
Yeah. And so you're sitting there and you're like, man, this isn't going to do nothing. But then when you start, you type in a question and all of a sudden, like, you get a response that isn't a automated bot response. You're like, oh, wait, this person's alive and has a pulse. So I mean, but it just says a lot about the company and you guys care about your customer service. So that's awesome. Not many companies do that anymore. So
I'm just glad I didn't do what I usually do when I think I'm encountering an AI chat bot, and I usually say the craziest things I can just to amuse myself.
Some X-rated stuff that you can't say on this podcast.
I'm kind of glad when I saw the chat bot, when I saw the live chat pop up on y'all's website, I just ignored it instead of doing what I was about to do, which Duncan and I might have been having a very different conversation for the first time.
You would be surprised at what I see at 1 a.m. PST on people. Some of these chats are, and over the years, John can attest to this. Over the years, they're not customers; they're friends, they're family. They're an extension of our lives in some capacity. It's the friends I got to deal with. Just the ones that are going to come in and bust my balls at 1 a.m. Are you up? What are you doing? Are you real? And some people I know these people or whatnot, or you get the randoms that, are you awake? ? Yep. Okay, I have a quick question. Okay, well, it's 1 a.m. I've already poured my bourbon for the night. What, shoot me. What you got?
Right.
But yeah, no, our live chat is phenomenal. We probably have the quickest response time in the industry because I don't sleep. And if you pick up the phone, we probably also have the quickest phone call response time because John never sleeps. So you do get live support, and I think that's probably a difference maker for a lot of people is that instantaneous support. Can be a quick question, can be a long conversation. We're here for it.
Awesome. Just really quick, everybody, when you go on to usnightvision.com, use code MOF for 3% off as well. I will be getting that code up on our website and everything. So you guys, thanks a lot for coming on a second time. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys. John, I know I've talked to you a handful of times on the phone and everything, and we've always got good conversations, but it's good to get you guys on. And I can't wait till we get have another conversation. And honestly, like I said before, we'll have to get you guys on, and we don't even need to talk about night visions. I don't know, talk about politics. So let's get your real feelings out there. If we can't get a Duncan rant.
All very like-minded. That would be the positive aspect of that. But again, when you start getting Phil, especially all worked up over things, and we might start, it may go from rated G to rated R quickly.
Okay.
So you'll have to have your finger on the button.
Right there, you go.
I do actually have this video that I'm not going to play right now that's all queued up and just waiting for the next time Andrew sends me into orbit, labeled blood pressure warning. And it's just for those moments where I've completely lost my mind and run off the reservation, which hasn't happened yet, actually.
We all have those moments.
Yeah. Usually it coincides with Andrew poking me with a stick and my whiskey intake being just at the right level.
It coincides with the administration that is now running our country, which is a failure. And we won't start. We weren't supposed to start with the politics, but I mean, it's looking forward to November of 2024. That's for sure.
Right. So,
New
guys,
opportunities.
I'm
What's
looking
that?
forward to Mad Max, honestly. I've got my
Yeah, right.
post-apocalyptic warlord outfit all picked out and everything. I think I'm going to go Lord Humongous with the hockey mask, the short shorts, and the
diaper?
combat boots.
Oh,
Keep it real.
right.
Awesome.
But
Well, guys, thanks again for coming on. Greatly appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And
Appreciate it.
anytime, you guys more than welcome anytime. Just hit one of us up and we'll make plans.
It's a deal.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, so we'll go ahead and punt this one out the door. This has been John and Duncan from US Night Vision, indulging us in another night of Night Vision nerdism. And if y'all haven't already taken the plunge, I suggest you go over to US Night Vision and talk to Duncan on the live chat. Just be polite, because he's not an AI chatbot. He's a real person with feelings. And if you'd rather have a phone call, talk to John. And if you'd rather not get into Night Vision, I don't know why on earth you're listening to this, but maybe we'll twist your arm. But good night, everybody. Talk to you another week. Bye.
Take care, everyone.